We've all heard the story of the Nephilim, right? Giants, fallen angels, chaos on Earth, the whole deal. But what if I told you the story we all think we know is, well, wrong? And what if the real story is actually a lot more personal and, frankly, a whole lot scarier? Look, for the longest time, I was right there with you. I just assumed the popular version was the only version. The one, a bunch of rebel angels come down to Earth, think human women are beautiful, and have these giant, monstrous kids. It's an incredible story, almost like a superhero movie.
But when you start to dig into the text a little closer, you realize, wait a minute, maybe this isn't about supernatural invaders at all. Maybe the real story is about a deeply human tragedy, a story of compromise. And let me tell you, that turns out to be a much more chilling warning for us today.
So before we totally flip the script on this, let's just do a quick recap of the version most of us learned. This is the blockbuster version of the Nephilim, straight out of Genesis, chapter 6.
The story goes like this, right? The sons of God show up, and everyone just assumes these are fallen angels. They see the daughters of men, they take them as wives, and boom, their children are the Nephilim, these legendary, powerful beings. It's this huge tale of cosmic rebellion spilling onto Earth and causing all kinds of problems.
And hey, it's a great story. It's super compelling. But here's the question that changes everything. Does that interpretation actually fit with the rest of the narrative? Or is there another explanation, one that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time, that makes way more sense of what leads up to the Great Flood?
To find that answer, we don't need to look up into the heavens for angels. We actually need to look back a couple of pages, to Genesis chapter 4. You see, the key isn't in the sky. It's right here on the ground, with two very different human families. And this is where it all starts to click. In this reading, the sons of God aren't angels at all. No, they're the descendants of Seth, the godly lineage. The text even says that in their time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. So, who are the daughters of men? They're the other side of the coin, the worldly, rebellious line that came from Cain. So all of a sudden, the term sons of God isn't about what species you are, it's about what spiritual family you belong to. It's a title for a people who are defined by their faith, trying to hold on to their relationship with God in a world that was becoming more and more corrupt. And with that one little change in perspective, the whole narrative just pivots. The tragedy is no longer about monsters coming in from the outside. No, it's about the faithful line from the inside going out, compromising their core beliefs and marrying into a culture that was against everything they were supposed to stand for.
Okay, so that's the first huge piece of the puzzle. Now for the second, and this one is a game changer. It's a number that gets thrown around all the time in this story, but almost everyone gets it wrong. I'm talking about the 120 years.
Yep, that number, right in the middle of all this. God says his spirit won't contend with humans forever, and that their days will be 120 years. So, what does that mean? Is God just slapping a new, shorter age limit on humanity? Now, the common take is that God just decided, okay, that's it, nobody lives past 120 anymore. But this other reading suggests something way more dramatic and immediate. It wasn't a new biological limit for all of humanity. It was a divine ultimatum for that generation. It was a 120-year countdown to judgment. Think about it like this. God basically put the world on the clock. He declared, you have 120 years, that's it, turn this ship around. This period was a window of mercy. It was the time when Noah was building the ark and preaching, giving everyone a final warning before the floodgates opened. Okay, so if the story isn't really about fallen angels, and the 120 years is a countdown to the flood, then what's the ultimate point? What's the real, lasting warning of this whole Nephilim narrative? It all boils down to this incredibly important principle, the danger of being unequally yoked. It's a phrase used later in the Bible, and it's basically a warning to believers not to get into binding partnerships, whether in marriage or business or life, with those who don't share their core faith and values. It's about not tying yourself to something that's pulling in the complete opposite direction. And you can see this tragic progression play out perfectly. It all started with a compromise. The godly line of Seth started intermarrying with the worldly line of Cain. That led to corruption, as their distinct godly culture got watered down and diluted until the whole world was filled with wickedness. And the final step? Judgment. The flood wasn't just some random act of nature. It was a direct response to this total societal decay.
And that is the scarier truth. The biggest threat wasn't an external invasion of monsters. The danger was a slow, internal decay that was caused by compromise. It's a warning that the greatest threat to a people of faith often doesn't come from a direct attack, but from just slowly assimilating into a culture that pulls them away from their very foundation.
Which leaves us with a really challenging thought. If the ancient story of the Nephilim is actually a cautionary tale about the slow erosion of our identity through compromise, it kind of forces us to ask ourselves a tough question. What worldly systems, values, or relationships are we yoked to today?